You know, there's one thing in my life that has brought me a lot of comfort, a lot of stability, a lot of happiness, and that's animals, pets. You know, growing up I had cats for the most part, and for the past few years I've had pet dogs. You know, they've always kind of been a source of comfort to me in many ways, and they've always kind of, you know, brought me some sense of hope, I guess, and some sense of light. And I just always kind of felt like I was connected more to animals than I did to people, really. It's not so much that I hate people. I just find them disappointing. And I kind of just got to a point in my 20s, late 20s, where I just didn't really want to be around people anymore. I didn't really like the kinds of people that I had to tolerate, whether that was at work, whether that was at just random people. You know, it's just I just never really clicked that well with people for the most part. You know, there was only really a handful of people, I think, from my entire life that I've really ever truly clicked with in the sense that kind of, you know, we understood each other on different levels. And that's not to say that those relationships were perfect or even the right kind of relationships, as in friendships. You know, I've had friends, you know, when I was younger, I had friends of my own age. I had friends older than me, a lot older than me. And I think for the most part, I just always seemed to get on more with the more mature people, really. I always kind of felt like I was a more, you know, maybe too introspective for my own good, but too maybe mature beyond my years in many ways. I didn't have life experiences, but I kind of understood certain things about human nature maybe a lot earlier than some people do. And that maybe that's brought out from a, you know, an upbringing that wasn't exactly I mean, it's not like I didn't have a childhood, I did, but it was hardly, I had to kind of grow up fast, really. I think the environment that I grew up in, you know, you couldn't really be innocent for long. You know, you was thrust into a situation where you had to grow up, and so I think in many ways I connect to animals because I see their innocence. I see their vulnerability. I see how much they, you know, in certain circumstances rely on us. And also I see that, you know, sometimes the very best of people can come out when they're associated with, you know, being responsible for animals. But of course, you know, I've obviously seen, you know, the very worst of people as well. I mean, I used to work in, well, I say work, I used to volunteer for the RSPCA, a local branch, and not that far away, really. And I just remember I used to see these posters on the walls of, you know, just vile, just excuses for human beings, you know, just walking excrement, really. Types, you know, you'd see these pictures that obviously that abused them, and it's just, I just always found that kind of stuff, like that stuff gets to me really, really, really bad. You know, I can't stand to see the mistreatment, you know, the abuse of anyone, of anything. But, you know, certainly animals, it's just something that's always bothered me. Maybe it's because I almost maybe sort of see myself in, I can kind of relate to animals in a way. You know, I can kind of like, I see the, you know, they have a kind of odd existence, don't they? You know, domesticated animals, you know, pets. It's, you know, they don't live normal lives really, I suppose, in many ways. You know, I always, for me, like having my cats as a kid, as a teenager, you know, it was special. You know, I always had something that I could cuddle and, you know, spend time with, and I always kind of felt more connected to them, I suppose, than I did sometimes my own family, for being honest. I know that's not a nice thing to admit, but it's the truth. But I mean, I don't mean all the time. I just mean at certain times. You know, it just felt like I was. You know, I almost felt like my pets understood me more than anybody else, maybe in some ways. You know, and it's ridiculous to think that, but I don't know. I just got that impression sometimes. You know, they couldn't obviously verbalise, but they kind of they understood your mood. They understood your emotions. You know, just to a point anyway. You know, they knew what mood you were in. I miss my pets, you know. I miss the pets I had throughout the years. You know, I haven't forgot any of them. You know, it's sad that they're, you know, it's just kind of sad, really. You know, in some ways, to look back on it all. Just kind of partly why I don't look back and try not to look back too much, because it's just too. It's just too hard to it's just too hard to think about. And it's not just about the pets. It's the things. It's the memories that are connected to them. You know, it's the times. You know, the fact that I was much younger then, much more naive. You know, in some ways happier, I suppose. You know, I went to this zoo yesterday, and you know, I'm definitely you know, someone that's up for things like that. You know, I don't mind going to, you know, I'm not a complete recluse or anything, but it's like, you know, I don't always like to go out, but from time to time, you know, I don't mind going out and seeing things and trying things or whatever, and just getting out from time to time. Well, it doesn't happen as much as it used to, but still, you know, it's good to break away from the you know, the echo chamber that is your own mind, really. You know, the you know, the walls that are closing in on you, kind of thing, and you know, you just start going mad after a while. It's just, you start kind of eating yourself alive. So it's good to kind of just temporarily break out of that. But being at this zoo, it was nice to see the, you know, the various sections, and it was nice. It was nice experience in certain ways. You know, and of course, as a like anybody really, you know, you have kind of mixed emotions, mixed thoughts about various things, and it just kind of got me thinking about, like, when I was a child. You know, if I would have been there as a child, I wouldn't have really. I would have just appreciated the moment and just enjoyed seeing the animals, and I wouldn't have really thought anything about it really. But you know, as someone that's got a little bit of life experience behind them now, and like any of us, you know, as you start to mature, you start to become a little bit more, you know, you just take on a kind of deeper approach to things as you get older, and you start to see, you just start to see that it's not, things aren't, there's lots of different perspectives and on whatever it is, whatever experience you're in. On the one hand, it's, it was obviously very informative. It's obviously very interesting, and that's kind of part of it. It's, it's important in terms of the conservation aspects of it and all that. And I get it. I understand that. We need to preserve some species, and we've got to try our best. But it's not. Let's not pretend that it's not also a business and a money maker for a lot, obviously, those that own it and that work there. And I understand that it creates jobs, and they've obviously got it must be a very expensive business to have. All sorts of various types of foods and medicines and all, veterinary care and various specialists that have to come in and deal with certain specific issues, and all the cogs that it takes to run a zoo. I get all that, and I appreciate that and respect that. But also at the same time, there was a part of me that was just like, it just feels wrong, really. I don't know. I understand the need for zoos in certain ways, especially if it's true that climate change is a genuine thing and it's going to get worse as the years, decades go on, then it may be necessary, even more necessary, to have zoos. It's like, of course, I don't like it. Like most people, I don't like seeing animals trapped in cages. I don't like seeing animals kind of not being used. That's the wrong way to put it. They're not just kind of just. Look, I'm sure the animals get treated fairly and well. I'm sure they do the best and everything. But I don't know. It's just a part of me that just kind of breaks my heart, really, if I'm being honest about it. It's just, I kind of found it a bit upsetting. I don't know. Maybe I'm just being too bloody soppy and sentimental, or too. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe there's just something bloody well wrong with me. I don't know. I just find as I'm getting older, I just seem to get more emotional about certain things a lot quicker than I used to. I don't know if that's just like a part of aging. It's something to do with my hormones or something. I don't know what the hell's going on. It was to do with like testosterone depleting or something. Honestly, don't know. But just on a purely, from a kind of moral, ethical point of view, it's. I get it, but I don't like it. I understand it, but I wish it wasn't like that. I don't like seeing. Kind of elephants being kind of used as kind of. I don't mean used in a sense of like. Like they're kind of some disposable thing. I don't mean it like that. I just mean that that they're being. They had this show of these elephants being paraded around and like drawing, and I don't know. There was just something about it, man. I don't know how to explain it. I just found it really upsetting. Of course, I wasn't trying to make other people aware of it, but it was on it. I just felt it. There was just, to me, it was. I don't know. It was. I enjoyed it. It was entertaining, but as well, it was kind of sad. If I'm being honest, it was kind of depressing. It's like I don't know if I'm just getting old or what. All the animals seemed healthy to me, but then again, I'm no veterinarian. I'm no avian or reptile or mammal expert or anything. So I don't what the hell do I know? But it all seemed relatively healthy, apart from there was a hyena there, and there was just a few things to me that stood out, and I was just like, like I said, there was this hyena that was going from left to right, left to right, left to right. I was just like, it just looked gone, man. It just looked like it was just. I just found it really sad, really. it was. I just found it upsetting. And I'm sure it's not the zookeeper's fault, and it's not they're trying the best, and I know that they're trying to conserve a certain species and thing, and I get that, I understand the need for it, and that's massively important. And like I said, these people have my utmost respect. I know it must be extremely difficult to run these kind of businesses on probably a difficult budget, and they've obviously got overheads and a vast amount of people there, taking care of the animals day in day out, and people cleaning, and people building new areas, and taking care of things. People obviously dealing with the food and all that kind of stuff. It's it must be it must cost an absolute fortune to run. It's whoever's running it, I respect them, because it can't be an easy business to have. Not to mention all the bureaucratic side of it as well, and paperwork and everything you've got to abide by all the time. It must be an absolute nightmare. So I'm sure they're doing the best. I certainly hope there's no abuse going on there. I don't think so, but who knows? You don't know what happens behind closed doors. It's like when the zoo closes, and you always hope that people are doing the best and trying the best. But we don't live in a perfect world, and but yeah, just seeing those. The things that really hit me was seeing that hyena like that. Just that it was clearly. I think it was honestly It looked like it was broken, really. It just looked like it had lost its mind, It was just very sad, very, very sad. Most of these animals don't belong here in Thailand. They're not even from. Most of them are from parts of Africa, parts of South America, Canada, America, some other parts of Asia. I don't know. I just can't imagine being. I don't know. It just kind of got me thinking. I just found it really, really sad. Seeing the elephants. That really got to me. I don't know why. There wasn't anything sad about it. It was just on a deeper level. It was just like. I think I was just like, just imagine if that was your life, it could be a lot worse. I get that. And I also understand, of course, that, certain species in the wild wouldn't last as long as they do, in captivity or in a zoo or whatever. So in some ways, maybe you could make the argument, I don't know, it's one of those more sort of moral, ethical dilemmas, isn't it? It's like, yes, of course, you want to preserve and conserve things, and there's probably never been a better time for that. But on the one hand, you want to see them free. You want to see them have their independence and their own autonomy and things like that. I don't know. I'm just too much of a deep thinker. I'm just too. I can see the different sides of things. I get it. I understand it. So, I don't know. It's a difficult one. I don't know. It just seemed like it was a very lonely life, really. Imagine being in your own natural habitat and just being caught and being taken to some zoo for 20, 30 years. Imagine what that. Just. Like it's in a way, it's kind of like a prison / freak show, isn't it? It's like a circus, being part of a circus act or something. It's like, especially for the lions. There was another kind of there was a crocodile show where there was this guy and as well, I don't know why they have to have the bloody music so fucking loud as well. It's like, really? I don't know. think I'm just as I'm getting older, I'm just getting more unhappy with life. I'm just getting more kind of miserable about a lot of things, and I'm just, you just kind of you can't just unsee things. You can't just pretend that everything's hunky dory and fantastic. It's like, yeah, of course you can't just focus on the negatives. That doesn't do you any good either. But you just can't. You can't just have this. You can't just have this kind of like whole overly positive field of vision about everything in life, and that doesn't serve you well in any way. It's like you've got to have more. You've got to try and have a bit of a balance, I guess. But it's hard. It's hard to do it when when you've had difficult experiences growing up, when you had to deal with trauma, when you've had to deal with depression, where you've had to deal with bullying and difficult circumstances growing up. It molds you into a certain mindset, I think. It molds you into a certain person, type of character. It makes you want to become a recluse. It makes you want to become introverted because you feel that no one gets you, no one understands you, and that's not always be the case. But I think it's just that we find it hard to find people like ourselves. I don't know. I just don't know. I enjoyed it, the experience, but yesterday. But I don't know. It was it was a bit depressing, if I'm being honest. It was. I don't know. It was just odd, really. It was just, seeing these elephants like playing football and stuff. It's incredible. Animals are amazing. They're intelligent, and they're a lot more intelligent than we give them credit for, because we define intelligence by our own very human-centric approach to things. But they are intelligent animals, and elephants especially. Dolphins, chimpanzees, various types of birds. I mean, really, all animals that have some degree of intelligence, they all have their own, ways of dealing with their own specific difficulties of their own environments. So they're all smart in their own ways. It's just that we have this definition of what we deem to be intelligent, and that's what goes. It's like, well, I don't think it's quite that simple, really. It's like, yes, there might be definitions of intelligence that work for us as a species, but to try and apply those same kind of metrics or whatever, the same kind of rules or whatever to a completely different species, I just don't think that's fair, really. I mean, you could make some basic, you could say some very simple things that, there are animals that you could say will have some advantages over other animals, depending on their particular habitat and situation and need and various inadequacies as a species compared to others or whatever. But I think, when you look at, for the most part, an animal's ability to adapt over time and to survive, apart from, say, like a few species, I mean, let's face it, we live in a world of predators and prey, really. Unfortunately, that is a sad reality, but it is the nature of life on Earth, unfortunately, for the most part, anyway. And that was kind of what I was sort of thinking about yesterday. That these, yes, on the one hand, these animals are lucky in many ways. They'll get to live, probably some of them, a lot longer lives than they would have ever had a chance of having in the wild. Probably, anyway. But also, some of them will probably die younger as well, because some of them will just they will have breakdowns. They just won't be able to deal with being in such a confined space for so long. You know? And I think that's what happened to that. Probably what had happened to that hyena. You know. Just as well, some of the, you could see some of the lions and tigers. They didn't particularly look very happy either. I mean, they looked, more sort of psychologically stable than that hyena did. But still, none of them, I don't think, are particularly happy. I mean, how could you be? I mean, I don't know. I assume that some of them will have been, brought in there since they were probably babies, I'd imagine. So, maybe they haven't really, don't know any different, maybe, but some of them won't have been. Which that's, and for those animals, obviously, it will be a lot more difficult to get accustomed, to kind of adapt to that very unnatural setting, that situation. And I think that's what it's for me. I always try and look at things from a kind of empathic way, like a kind of put yourself in their shoes, try and put yourself in, try and imagine what it would be like for you if you was in that situation. Imagine the despair you would feel, the loneliness of it. That you're essentially just an entertainer. It's like, yeah, okay, you get treated well, you get decent food and whatever, but it's like, but you don't have any freedom. I couldn't stand it. I don't think I could really deal with that. And as well, in the back of your mind, you're always wondering, it's all smiles and laughs and happy faces, as it should be for, let's face it, children, a children's attraction, really, for the most part. It's just like, I didn't really know what to make of it overall. I was just in such a mixed state of thoughts about the whole place. And it's not like I had that before as well. I've been to zoos in the past, and I've never actively gone to a zoo by myself. It's always been with somebody else, because I don't really. I can support it in a way, but it's like I don't know. For me, it's one of those conflicting kind of things, like constantly conflicting experiences of emotions and thoughts. I just don't know how. I just don't know how I feel about it, really. I can't say one way or the other. And of course, in the back of your mind, we've all seen things about, negligence and animal abuse, especially in zoos and things. And I'm sure those things are not that common, but they do go on, they do happen. And sometimes it's not always, sometimes people just snap, and animals, sometimes go berserk, and as you can imagine, being trapped and caught up in that kind of environment for years or decades, even for some of them. So you can imagine, it's like, and also, the pressures and difficulty of working in a zoo. It can't be easy when you're dealing with a wild, extremely dangerous animal. You've got to be on your feet, but there's no need, there's no excuses for abuse, there's no excuses for mistreatment and negligence and causing harm. If there are accidents, I mean, that's one thing. Sometimes things happen. There are accidents, or sometimes you do have to be kind of, you do have to be you know, you do have to be very careful with especially with elephants, for example. You know, these things will bloody crush you to death in an instant. You know, crocodile, extremely dangerous animals. Lions, tigers, extremely dangerous animals. You know, you do have to be very careful, and there are certain ways of dealing with these animals, very specific techniques and things that you have to do to avoid getting mauled to death. You know, getting crushed to death, and to some people they might see some of that stuff as being, you know, questionable, but it's like, you know, I guess certain things, you know, there's a reason why handlers and zookeepers do certain things, and I get that there's a difference between that and just outright abuse, and you know, and I'm not saying that there's any abuse going on there. As, you know, obviously nobody wants to believe that about any kind of situation, whether it's with animals, you know, the elderly, children, whatever it is. You know, we all want to believe that people are decent deep down, you know. And I think probably most people try. It's not easy. It's not easy to be decent. But when it comes to animals, you know, unless you're in a position where you have to defend, you know, you have to defend yourself, whatever. That's a different situation. But I mean, you know, just seeing these elephant handlers with their hooks and, you know, sort of digging them into the skin a little bit, it's just like, yeah. I don't know. I remember seeing it in another place one time, and it's just like, I know there has to be, you know, you have to be in control of that animal. You know, you're talking about a multiple ton animal that could stomp you to death, you know, like it just crush you to death in a few seconds, and that's it, you're gone, you know. You're done, you're finished. Or whatever animal it is you're dealing with, you know, the older, the bigger it is, you know, it's the longer maybe it's, you know, probably been in captivity, whatever, it's been in a zoo or whatever, you know, the more chances, there's more of a likelihood that it might be more temperamental, and you do have to be extremely careful. And the thing is, I'm sure that even some of these zookeepers don't necessarily want to keep them in the zoos, but I you know, I get that there's a need for people to, you know, people need to have jobs, people want to have careers, and people want to do what they see as being right. But, you know, just because something that you feel is moral might not be moral to someone else, but obviously that works the other way around, so. Yeah, I don't know, I enjoyed it, but I kind of see the dilemma of it, you know. It's a tricky one. It's a very difficult area, you know. There's no, I don't know. There aren't really any. You aren't really any real answers. I mean, yeah, okay, you could get, you know, let things go and put them back into the wild. But I mean, if something's been institutionalized essentially by being in a, you know, cage for years, I mean, I'm sure they'll probably get to go out and they probably have areas or whatever. But I mean, to let loose from time to time. I mean, I don't know. But I mean, if I don't know the inner workings of it. I don't know how it all works, obviously. But yeah, I mean, if they're just kept in their cages for years on end, I couldn't do it. I couldn't work there. I don't think I couldn't. I just couldn't handle it. I couldn't handle seeing it all the time. I just found it. I don't know what other word to use apart from heartbreaking. It was kind of crushing, really, in a way. You know, you could tell some of these, like, I mean, I remember there was some monkeys that were, they just looked like they're just, you know, they obviously didn't want to be there, but they just kind of looked like the soul had gone out of them, kind of thing, you know. Just very, very sad, very, very, very sad to see. And maybe I'm just reading too much into it, and, you know, looking at it too much from a purely human perspective maybe. We kind of understand. We try to understand things by kind of placing our own emotions and cognitive functions of reasoning and understanding and outlook onto other things. Like I said, we have this very human-centric approach to a lot of things in life, and I don't know, it's just yeah, it was a weird one.